Yes.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our session. This will be a panel discussion on PMO supply chain. And because of the previous session was in a bit delay, that's why we could start this one in a bit delay as well. But hopefully you can join right now to our session. Okay, let me give you a really short introduction of our panelists for this wonderful session. We have Remco Winkel, the source of PMOs in the Netherlands. We have Dr. Jeanne Hortense, the project sorceress from France. And we have we have lost Bume, Olive Kima-Oben, the business analyst princess from Cameroon. So let's start our discussion with another little bit of introduction. So the topic is PMO supply chain. The major question which was raised that if we can talk about a PMO supply chain or a supply chain from a PMO perspective. And actually, we had a warm-up event with all of you, and we discussed that first of all we have to identify or define what we are what we know about supply chains, and after that we can analyze if a supply chain can be utilized or put in parallel with PMOs. So if you can say something about what do you think what a supply chain is and how can we link that to PMOs or the PMO connections with other areas? That would be great. Who would like to start?
Well, I could give a few thoughts on that. And when you say supply chain, you of course think about moving goods or material around. And you don't do such a thing in a PMO. On the other hand, PMOs are in the middle of some kind of process, being it from a strategy that has been defined to executing projects to make that strategy happen into products that create benefits, etc. So there's a chain from strategy to projects to benefits. The other way around, there's also, of course, information being transported. Information about these benefits, information about the progress of projects, etc., etc. So a PMO is in the middle of a stream, so to speak, a stream from strategy to execution and a information stream. So the analogy would very well fit there, just as much as this gives us a good starting point to look at actual supply chains and how they are organized. That might be input for us to see how we can do it in the PMO.
Yeah,
that's right.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We just had some few things about what I've just said, Remco. I think it makes sense to talk about supply chain from a PMO perspective, and I will mention several things. So, for example, in general, supply chain in some industry like logistics, for instance, is a network of activities, resource, and technologies involved in the creation of the product, and it's viewed as the most cross-functional part of a business, and it involves many other areas of the company: sales, marketing, procurement, finances, to understand some of the trade-offs one can make. Seen in this way, I think PMO, with his key roles and his central position with the company as a control tower, is to support the strategy deliveries, is like a supply chain for project also. So is a very good idea to think about that. It's very relevant to think about that. And we know that PMO is at the cornerstone of the company, and most of all, he had a central role when creating relationships with other different stakeholders and leading people, and above all, help creating values for organization. And that kind of a PMO, seen as a supply chain, is just wonderful.
Thank you. It's a wonderful topic that we're discussing today, and I just want to bring another very interesting point, that with supply chain, when we are looking from the general perspective, we're talking about the practice of coordinating the various activities. So if you look at supply chain from that perspective and PMO too depends on the way you want to have your PMO being the approach or the methodology that you want to implement. So what will happen with the supply chain, we are talking about the practice of coordinating the various activities necessary to produce and deliver goods and services to a business or customer. And so what will definitely happen here is the fact that when you have the PMO kind of approach put in place, you see that you're doing the same, you're applying the same procedure or the methodology or the process that you want to deliver something, you're delivering its services and putting what the best practice. So both PMO and supply chain, you see that they are kind of coordinating and they bring out what best practices and what effective communication. Because if you have effective communication in whatever thing you're delivering, services that you're delivering, it makes you to stand out. And when you have this approach put in place, I think it's going to help the way the business is going to be run. And you have to understand that whether you're delivering goods or services, for instance, if you want to do packaging, you see that you have a starting point and an end point. And what does it bring? It brings in project management. And how do you have this done? You have it done in a process, in a system, And today, if you have your PMO being in the form of a strategic approach, you see that you are basically having the same approach like doing your PMO. So PMO and supply chain in the context of today, because of the evolution, technology has already evolved, So you see that everything is practically being done in the same way. So what we're trying to come out here is the fact that it is important when you're managing, you want to set in your PMO or you want to set in your supply chain system, you try to do it accordingly, having put your best practices, effective communication, do your coordination in a way that it will be transparent and easy and, for everyone to be aligned or be informed of what is happening in the organization.
Yeah, I do see the parallel in what a PMO does and what a logistics operator does. So I think we can learn a lot from each other, and it also shows that the PMO is indeed, like Jeanne says, having a central function. It's in between, it's coordinating the streams, the flow of information, the flow of projects. So we could best be regarded as a logistics function in that sense. I guess it's a good example and a good parallel.
Yeah. Having a system, a supply chain system put in place successfully. What are you looking at? You're looking at efficiency and effectiveness. You're looking at change management. You're looking at innovation. You're looking at delivering self or others, or developing selves or others. And when you say developing selves or others, what do you look at it? It's training. And in PMO, you have to make everyone to understand what it entails. So you are effectively implementing what? Self-development, which is entitled of training. So you have to train everyone who is going to be in that system, who is going to be considered in that system. And if you have this put in place with effective communication management, you definitely have a wonderful system put in place. And that is what we're trying to promote here today, because PMO is at the strategic point, or most organizations look at it from a strategic perspective, not more like the traditional way of doing things, that you have to look at the PMO as your directive, controlling, supportive. No, it's not anymore. And you see that a defined supply chain talks on the strategic part of it, and it helps for management decision as well. So you have to really look at the way, the system, the process. You have to be very you have to be very, very careful when you put in the system in place, so that you don't have any disruption.
Yes, I do agree with what Olive just said. Here, we need the PMO. We also say that the PMO need to ensure that I do agree definitely with you that he needs to ensure that the whole organization understand the strategy, and it's why it help the delivery of this strategy through projects, and in order to get that hand-to-hand value creation when managing project portfolio and programs. In that way, I think that is through the PMO, effectively, that strategy can be delivered more effectively. And I really thank you for this point.
That's correct. Thank you. And then you look at other aspects as well. With the supply chain is there to resolve problems. And problem solving is one of the things that one of the aspects that PMO is trying to resolve as well. So what we're trying to say here now, that you see, if you look at what supply chain is doing today, from the perception of the way it is being run in organizations, you see that most of it have the same similarity like PMO. So it's a good practice for us to have these two emerge and be considered when you are implementing your supply chain. That's right.
Yeah, and it even goes further, this analogy, because when you look at the PMO as a supply chain, then you might want to be able to ask yourself the question: how do I get as much products or much goods through at the same time as possible, and where the goods would be then projects in our case. I have seen some methodologies that then go into lean, and they say portfolio management is all about creating project flow. And they're going to use bottleneck analysis and stuff like that, just as logistics companies would do, and how to get as many parcels and packages along. So the parallel is astonishing in that sense. Not only if you know it's positioned in a company, but also how it acts and what it does.
Yeah.
and how to
And
how
then
to
there's
control
something
that.
I just want to, yeah. Okay. We need to, it is, our audience need to understand that over the years, like 10 years ago, PMO process has been evolving. So, as a juror with the PMO Global Award for 4 years, you see that when you are evaluating the way companies implement their PMOs, you see that there's a trend of changes. And each year you have different history, different stories being shared out. And you see that when you have this exposition, then you know that PMO is becoming one of the strategic practice that organizations are trying to implement. And he who has a strong and well-developed PMO will definitely succeed. Making what? Having a common language. If you have this set, even with the supply chain, you have a common language, meaning that everyone is versed with the process, with the procedure. It's about the people. So all of this is important when we are trying to, put in place the supply chain, and also considering put in place the PMO. So we
Um,
have to take this into consideration.
Yes, I would like
Today,
to.
yeah. Go
Thank you.
ahead, Jane.
Yes, please. I would like just to add something. When we know that PMO, as you say, have many traditional function. We like to see PMO with another bring something else, like how to drive impact for organization. And we don't just need them to provide. I am a project manager. If I just have, how can I show that PMO helps me? What are the measures? So PMO needs to be able to work with me closely to agree on measure, so we can just demonstrate that, hey, see what we are doing for the business. The projects are delivered on time. The business is going forward. People want to see this kind of output now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because that is the essential of why we are here today, to bring out all of these values. It's important for everyone who is involved in supply chain, who is involved in PMO, that you should know that your supply chain should be reflecting the way you manage your PMO. And I would say, supply chain doesn't only limit itself on the logistics. That supply chain will depend on the finance as well, because they have to pay the supplier. For instance, if it is a purchasing, you start from where you have the buyers, you have the manufacturer. So all of those, and it deals with what? Stakeholders. Very important. Stakeholder management is very critical. And that is why you talk about the people. In supply chain, once there is one breakout, the whole system it becomes very difficult, and you have results like failures. But once it is well managed, you do not have any, you won't have anything. And this is why we say, if you are implementing your supply chain, look it from the perspective of a PMO, considering that PMO is there to help you manage a complex situation and bringing it very simply.
Okay. Well, there were a lot of information and a lot of insights, and thank you very much for these. I just wanted to reflect what Jeanne mentioned, that she mentioned that she's a project manager and she needs to cooperate with PMO. So continue this idea there are some strongly, or there might be some strongly connected areas to PMOs, such as strategy design or strategy execution. There are the project management area, business analysis area. In some cases, they are included within the PMO, as the PMO is dealing with these areas or some part of these areas. In other cases, the PMOs are only linked to these areas. What do you think? How can these connections, or can these connections, I mean PMOs and these strongly connected areas, can these connections be standardized, and can supply chain point of view help to understand these connections? Who would like to start?
Uh, yes, if I want to start, I think yes. We have to think about the standardization because here we are talking about a system that is being put in place. You have a standard that you have to respect. You have the procedure that you have to put in place. And if you are managing, for instance, you have a project that you are managing, and you have various, uh, say, department or other functionals within the organization that you have to consider during this period, everyone should be connected to the system. You have to implement or adapt a system where every actionnaire, I would say, the participants, everyone is supposed to be integrated into the system. So it makes it a standard. So no one will be able to maybe keep information without sharing. And when you have a standardized system, communication becomes very common. So everyone understands the communication, the message that is there. Everyone is aware that, okay, on this particular time, this is the information, this is the action we need, this is the activity that is going on. And everyone is able to follow up and have a common view of what is happening. Strategically, it is very imperative to have this system standardized for all the organization, every action or stakeholder involved in this project we say be considered into the system. So the
I
part
think
of
that
standardization, we say yes, is definitely important to have a standard put in place. Yeah.
Yes, great. I would like just to add something in general before thinking about the possibility of standardization or not. The connection, first of all, is important to articulate objectives and have a really clear point of view about what needs to be done depending of the context of any organization. This is not a kind of plug and play model because circumstances will be changing continuously. I just want to say yes for standardization, but you need to be ready to test if it can work in your organization. How you welcome change, you need to anticipate, you need to innovate and transform and improve continuously. Be just open. I'd say just try to integrate new things in your experience. Just be prepared to develop connection at a different speed and at a different level. But it's super critical that we have the right people at the right spot, as the connection is not just about processes, tools, and so on. Is most important about people, and be sure to create an environment that fosters sustainable collaboration and successful collaboration. And I think like agile approach can be beneficial for that purpose, to try to do things in that way. I can say when you are as Olive say, you can use technology, you can use data, you can use everything that can help to standardize the connection. You can apply standards in terms of process, but I think it's not going to happen in its own, as you need to connect all the dots. I just like this information from Olive. You have to connect all the dots with technology, with data, and with people. And I think in that way we can say that we can be able to connect. We can just go to say yes, okay, let's go to have a connection that can be standardized in general.
Yes.
Well, this call for standardization also calls for thinking about how we see the PMO itself. We are called PMOs and not strategy offices. We are there to guide and allow projects to run, report on progress on that, assist in prioritization of strategic initiatives, and so on. So I think it all starts with how you define the PMO. What does it do in your organization? What does it stand for? And then, of course, there's an entry point, referring back to the logistics chain. There's an entry point of the PMO and there's an exit point of the PMO. I would say the entry point being the found initiatives to be prioritized to realize your strategy. And the exit point is whatever the projects deliver in terms of products that enable the benefits. If you take this small definition, then you can see there's interaction with other departments and other functions. But if you take the definition broader, you say, no, we as a PMO, we are actually the change organization. We are the ones responsible for change. We are the ones delivering change. And we're the ones defining change. Then you speak about a different kind of a view. And then you, of course, will need to have standards to talk to other departments like information management, business analysis, architecture, and you might even think of incorporating those in the PMO.
Sorry, any thought of it? I mean, okay, let's say what if we take it with a broader definition.
So maybe we go ahead. Okay.
No, but move on, Olive. If you have some comments.
Oh yeah. Yes. I mean, we have elaborated on this, and you see that in the nutshell, we're talking about best practices, either supply chain or PMO. If we look at it from either perception or perspective, we want to deliver with effectiveness, with efficiency. We want to deliver, or we want to way of managing our activities. And so we look at it like it is critical that things be done. Like today we're looking at agility. You see that agile is taking over, the agile approach is taking a wider perception in project management today. And that is the same thing that today, just like in the future, you see that more organizations are taking the PMO approach in implementing it in all their activities. Like Remco said, we have the PMO implementations that are not standardized in all organizations. I have totally agree with that. For instance, I am in Africa. The way we perceive PMO is not the way PMO is being perceived in other continents or in other countries. So we have to understand that PMO is, and even supply chain, not all organizations have a wonderful or they've implemented the supply chain system. No, they may have a unit that is in charge of purchasing, but they just do it single-handedly. Nothing is being integrated, like having a system that can have a tracking, from the time that the activity is launched to the time that it is being delivered. So see, each department will be independent doing their own. Whereas with a proper supply chain implemented or adapted in an organization, even the people or the other participants to the organization will be included or integrated into the system. For instance, if DHL is supposed to deliver a good, they have to know the lead time, when the goods are going to be picked up and delivered, and when they get it into their warehouses. So you see that there is already this process that is being well established, and everything is being controlled and monitored. So if there is a delay, there will be a delay throughout the system, in the whole process. So if there is a delivery on time, then you see that the process is going to will work smoothly without any interruption. So I think that this the two systems put together is going to help a lot and will help organizations to deliver their activities with efficiency and effectiveness using good best practices.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from Agile, in the sense that where Agile originates from Lean. I mentioned before that when you have a supply chain, you want it to be effectively and efficiently. If you have projects, you want them to run smoothly. You want to have selected the right projects to run. You don't want any delays or hiccups, and in the end, you want to use the product's results to make sure that you gain and reach your benefits. If you look at it from a supply chain's perspective, then I think Lean methodology could be very handy, and maybe even some Agile methodology as well. Although I think that there where Agile comes a bit from Lean, that we shouldn't expect too much from Agile. It's not a very popular opinion, but I do believe that we shouldn't overestimate Agile methodologies at the moment. But true, it doesn't mean we have to close our eyes for other areas. And thinking about a PMO in the way of a supply chain is a very interesting mind exercise to see where we can improve and to see where we can do things better. It's true.
Yes, Remco. Yes, you are right. And I just want to say that I don't know what is the part of the C level on this kind of discussion. I just want to say that, for example, what can be an organization purpose when connecting this area? And they say, yes, great. We know that they want to move, they want their business to move forward and faster, and then allow team to collaborate like in an agile method. Yes, I do agree with you that we need Lean also, because with Lean specifically, we know that it can be an efficient way to reduce or eliminate it, or waste, especially wait time and rework, and when teams do not collaborate. So just say that we are going to take best practice from Agile, best practice from Agile, best practice from Waterfall, and with all this, we are going to do something better. We are going to improve the way PMOs serve in organization.
And that is creating values. That is creating values effectively. Yes.
Actually, just let me jump in because it is a really interesting discussion, and it's a self or moving. But in one hand, we are reaching the end of the time of our session. On the other hand, I can see questions as well. So let me jump to the questions. Okay, here's a question that could you elaborate on common language that we should have regarding communication with people? Is that meta language, training others on importance of PMO or something else? So basically, what is the common language? That was the question. I think that goes to Olive.
Thank you. When you say the common language, it's we want to have an effective way of managing our activities, and everyone is supposed to be aligned to managing these activities. I will quote, for example, if we have to place an order, this is more on logistics. Communication, you have to be able to say, all right, today, the lead time for our delivering is on a certain date that is being set. And before this day, these are the activities that needs to be done. And today with the agile approach, you have to stick in your calendar and you have to start processing and tracking all the activities, the various stages that are being implemented. If you do not communicate your needs very well, your expectations, then even the other internal and external stakeholders might not understand what your needs are and what your expectations are. So communication is very important. We know that not only in supply chain, in project management, as PMO as well. Communication, we know that you have to communicate 91% of the time. So if you do not express and tell the people exactly what they have to do, nobody will know what is needed to be done. So you can communicate in the various, I mean, if you set up a well-established communication plan, when information is supposed to be delivered, who is in charge of the information, who takes action, who is there just, you have the metrics that is set for communication. So you should be able to set everything just the way it is supposed to be done. That is when you expect to implement your best practices. So information, the communication plan path should be well managed in the way that everyone understands what the activity is set to be delivered. I think if it is well established, then you will know. So that's when we say it is you have a common language, you have the communication. And in a system where everyone is integrated in the system, obviously you will have to see all the processes and see where you have to intervene and how you have to intervene. Thank you. I hope that answered the question, and to know that communication is really vital. Thank you.
Thank you, Olive. Okay. Ideally, we should start our next session, but as well, let's say we were delayed with the previous one, and we were delayed with the start of this one. Let me ask you the last question of this session, which is what would be your view on establishing a common language across in terms of business case, exploration case, program activity, project, pre-study, proof of concept, etc.? Do you have a suggestion on what are sustainable structures to use? I mean, to establish a common language. That's a nice question.
Yeah, but
Yes, it's a nice question. Establish a system that everyone in the organization will be trained to use. It should be friendly. user-friendly, as they would say. Today, if you know about, I mean, it's not an advert, most companies, they use SAP. And if you look SAP, the way it is being implemented, you see that everyone connected on SAP reads and understands the common language that is being set in the organization. So yes, of course, when you talk about the business case, what do you need to do? Your business case demonstrates, it gives what the expectation the organization is wants to, or the project or the problem that they want to solve. So we know that supply chain is there, even PMO, all of these, project management, they are there to resolve a problem. So if you have a well-established system and everyone is trained to be able to use the system and know what information to provide in the system, I think it's going to make it a platform is going to be commonly used by all the various stakeholders, whether they are internal or external. And for instance, you have the various departments that are in the organization. For instance, the logistics is entitled to, will be linked to the finance. The finance will be linked to the project unit. The project unit will be linked to the compliance unit. The compliance unit will be linked with the various departments, depending on the structure, the organizational structure. So if all of these structures, I mean, the organizational structure is well integrated in the system, you know that everything will be commonly used and the system will be a standard for that organization.
I just want to add something to add something about what said Olive. We need to have a great communication, a transparent communication from the top to the bottom, but don't forget to train people when they don't understand. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
and I would like to add,
important.
it is indeed very important to have one common language, so you need your definitions. And there are plenty of definitions you can just borrow from existing methodologies. Let it be Prince2, let it be PMI, whatever, and then tailor them to your organization's needs. But indeed, what my colleagues are saying, it needs to be one common language. It needs to be trained. People need to be trained in it, and only then it can work.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Just the last example I will give here for a common language is a football team. You know, the football team got all the various. Yes, you have the ones, the attackers. You have the guys who are the goalkeeper. So everyone is there to do what? They have a goal. They have to win or they are losing, and they are playing like a team. So if you take it from that perspective, I think everything will be good.
Have the goal and be at the same page.
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
Thank you very much.
Your PMO approach is very important in everything you do. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Remco and Jeanne, for this wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a great discussion. I really liked your examples, how you try to dig up or discover the ideas, and how can we move on with the basic idea, if there is a PMO supply chain, or if we can call the PMO environment a supply chain. As we could see, there are many aspects, and there can be found many parallel things with PMOs and supply chains. And I really would like to thank you for your cooperation and collaboration and your help. And so thank you. And well, let's move to the next session.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.